Welcome, everybody, to the Raad Life, the only talk radio show that takes you along with host and age explorer Raad on his continuing journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting old. The Raad Life is this week by Your Home for a Lifetime, a company dedicated to empowering you to stay safely, independently, and comfortably in your own home. And now here is your host, Raad.
Hello, technical problems. Hello. Okay, this is live radio, ladies and gentlemen. So we're gonna have
Stuff happens.
Stuff happens. Well, do you have everybody? Does the guest have sound control?
Sound control to Major Tom.
Can you hear me? Hello. Oh,
Okay.
Wait, his headset's not connected, Paul.
Oh, it's not turned on.
Okay, so while Paul takes care of some technical issues with the station, I will. I want to tell everybody that if okay, we're good. All right. We usually actually turn down the volume on the guest's headset, so
We don't
that
want
they
to
don't
hear.
see what the heck we're talking about.
Ah, got it. That's smart.
The lead in, yeah.
All
So anyway, I want to make sure everybody knows how to get hold of us today because I have a feeling some people may call. So, Paul, will you do the honors and tell people how they can get hold of the show while we are on the air with our guest today, buddy of mine and a fellow San Clementian, Dan Bane, who is running for city council in San Clemente. How can people call in if they have any questions for Dan or us?
949-330-7761. 949-330-7761. Operators standing by.
He needs to do that. And then how can they get a hold of us on Twitter too, right?
At OC Talk Radio.
Okay. And you can also watch us if you're not too tired of just listening to us. You can watch us actually on YouTube and on Facebook on the OC Talk Radio channel.
I think it's on yours today, too. Here.
What?
It's on your Facebook today, too.
Oh, it's on mine too?
Yeah.
Wow. Is that on the Raad Life or on my personal
the Raad
one?
Life.
Okay, because don't put it on my personal one. I don't know. Yeah, I got a lot of haters on that. But Dan, great to have you here, man.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me down finally.
My pleasure. It's been a while.
Finally. Did you hear how he threw
Yeah,
that
no,
finally?
I know. And you're going to side up with him? I just got moved right along. I passed that one.
Thought,
What the hell, Paul?
that was a little mention there, little dig. Finally.
So you met Paul, right?
I did meet Paul.
Yes, I
He said he likes
apologize
to-
that I wasn't here to chaperone that exchange.
No, we had a great time here.
He said he'd mix it up a little bit.
I
Sounds like
did.
he will.
He mixes it up a little bit?
That's what he said.
Yeah, I walk in here, and the first show that I did, I made the mistake of actually saying, "Hey, Paul, do you got anything to say?" And he hasn't shut up since.
Never.
Right? So, no, but it's good. It's a good dialogue. So anybody who wants to get hold of us, please do so. I encourage you to have any questions. This is a pretty important election year all around, I think, and for a multitude of reasons.
This is an election year?
Yeah. Baby boomer in the corner. Okay. So we'll even touch base on some of your stuff that your generation would be interested in, right? But it's a very important year, and I think there's been a lot of paradigm shifts in the whole political nature of things, including people's focuses. The composition of the electorate has kind of changed, even in Orange County, even in deep South Orange County, as far as party affiliation. I think there's been a certain, I don't know, I mean, I like to think that there's been a certain maturity that has happened with the electorate, I think, in terms of wanting to find out more, wanting to be engaged more, not just basically looking for some sound bites to guide them in how they would cast their vote. So that's always good, regardless which side you vote for, to be more engaged. And it also makes for us to being able to have possibly people, and I hate to say this, but for a while, and I'm not picking on San Clemente per se, I'm just saying in general, I think we've had this stigma of running for public office, that it's been kind of, you do this and you're going to get shellacked. You're going to get basically thrown under the bus. Your family's going to drag through the mud. Unless you're some sort of narcissist or some sort of masochist, why the heck would you ever run for public office? And unfortunately, when that has become sort of the norm, we lost out on a lot of opportunities of good qualified people, new blood, other thoughts, to go in here. And I've said this before to people. I'm absolutely an advocate for term limits. I'm an advocate for encouraging people to be engaged in civic public service, whether it be a volunteer situation, whether it be actually as elected officials, and on any and all levels. So,
And you know what else adds to that? Not just the shellacking you get, the public humiliation, they beat you up in the attack ads, but the money.
Well, yeah, no, you get shellacked, and then you walk away with your tail between your legs with a whole bunch of debt.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's huge.
So campaign campaign reform, term limits. Sign me up, man. I mean, I think it's really sad, and I look. I've said it before. I was born in overseas. I did not really experience, let's say, oppression per se, but I grew up in places where you couldn't vote. You couldn't get involved in that level. The circles were kind of enclosed. Even in places where there is a democratic process in sort of the old world across the pond, there are closed circles. You don't really have an ability to engage and give of yourself and be of service to your community and on issues that you have a passionate feel for. And we have an opportunity here to do that. And for us to have gotten to the point where we have almost inadvertently discouraged anybody to engage. I mean, I remember, this is going to bring you I'm going to get a little personal here, but I applied for planning commission. I know you were on the planning commission in San Clemente, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I applied for planning commission more times than I know, right? And I remember the first time I applied to the planning commission, and I will not say who it is that said that because we both know that person, but I was basically taken aside and said, well, don't feel bad if you don't get on, because, you really kind of have to earn your keep and kind of like, you got to apply a number of times before you do. And I'm like, I was kind of like, I wasn't as jaded as I am today, which is very jaded. But I basically looked at it and said, wow, why? But I want to be like, I want to help. I want to like, I'm living in this town. I want to.
And you're a designer.
Well, no, you see, but that turns out that has nothing to do with.
Oh, it has nothing to do with you. You can be a cake baker. Or
so my point is, I am encouraged to see maybe to some a chaotic reality going on right now in the political circles, but I am also one of those contrarians that basically believes that out of chaos potentially could come order. And if we encourage people that are younger, people that have maybe a different take on things, to participate in that process in some capacity, we as a community will only be better. Now, I know you, like we said, had served on planning commission.
You got to introduce him. You still haven't introduced him after 10 minutes here.
I did, actually. I introduced him. I said Dan Bane, who's running for city council.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to give Dan.
I missed that part.
Before your whole political life, you also do something that is relevant, I think, to this, especially in a place like Orange County. So, Dan, take a minute and let people know what you do in your sort of daily life. Yeah.
Sure. So
who are you?
My background. Who am I? That's a complex question to start with. But,
this is why I didn't start with it.
Yeah. So I moved to San Clemente in 2008 with my wife. We did the process of looking for where we wanted to live. I'm a local land use attorney.
Where were you before?
So we were in Sunset Beach,
okay,
where we lived for a short time after law school. We both went to Pepperdine for law school.
Up north.
Came down to
LA County.
Yeah, in Malibu.
Yeah.
And came down to Orange County where we wanted to make our home and settled on San Clemente. But I'm a partner at Shepherd Mullen, which is a big international firm here in Orange County. Made my way up through the associate ranks for several years. 8 years after I started there, I became a partner. I'm a land use attorney and litigator, and also a commercial litigator, which means that on a day in and day out basis, I deal with local governments for a living. Both advocating for clients, I've represented public agencies. I'm invested and involved in the process every day. I have a huge interest in it. And immediately after moving to San Clemente, probably within 2 months, I took the San Clemente leadership class to learn more about the city, and then applied for planning commission based on my background. I've written a lot of articles about local land use issues. Got on the planning commission, and then also applied for the general plan advisory committee. So the huge interest, not just because of my job, but local politics is a way that people can make, to your earlier points, an immediate impact. I mean, everybody focuses on the state and federal levels, but most of what affects our day-to-day lives happens at the city level.
Well, and we say on this show, I mean, I think there's a certain truth to it in the 2018 world that we live in, is that all news is really local. Right, and if you take it to the next sort of elevated point of saying, well, it's state rights, and we are a union of states, and that basically we don't lose our identity as a state or individual. You can take that to the municipality level. There is definitely individuality in self-determination, and that includes things that I mean, every city is at a different stage of growth. It's at a different stage of evolution. The demographics and population is different from one city to the other, right? And we're going to touch on some of that. I'm curious. 2 questions, Dan. Did you pursue this line of litigation or this line of being an attorney focused on this area from the very beginning? And if so, why? What was the interest for you in this?
Well, it started in law school, and frankly, you take a bunch of different classes throughout law school, and I was always drawn to property law. I think certain people get certain areas and certain things, and property law just always made sense to me. I had an interest. I have a finance background from Missouri, and did a lot of real estate finance stuff while I was there, and I was always drawn to it. And
So
I did well in law school in these classes.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
I went to law school for 1 year at William and Mary. The worst class, the most awful class is property. Oh my God!
That's why he's sitting over there with a bucket of nuts in his.
Yeah, well, Paul, there's
a fee in kind or a fee and all these crazy things that go back to ancient English civil law. It's nuts.
Yeah, the rule against perpetuities and all that fun stuff. I mean, there's 2 types of people, right? There's torts people, which I liked torts, but and there's also property people that are sort of drawn to property law. And look, real estate is king in Orange County.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's any surprise that it's a huge area, and land use in particular with the regulation in California is a huge deal, both for the public side and for private developers. So
well, and it I would assume that it is constantly changing, also depending on availability, nature of the projects. Is it infill? I mean, we don't have all that open land that we once had. The strawberry fields are gone. The orange groves are more or less gone, unless it's a private home that somebody has, right? And so it changes and it evolves. And then at the same time, you intermix it with, it's not just a standalone industry. It affects and permeates into everything, from school fees to what kind of matrix for retail. I mean, what are the projections for sustainability for the next 10 years? I mean, it all is happening on a piece of property somewhere.
Yep,
right.
And that's what local government's about. It's about public safety and land use. That is the job of local government.
So why San Clemente?
It's funny. I grew up in Kansas City in Texas, came out here for law school, and just fell in love with Orange County, and then later San Clemente, just because the sense of community, frankly. Everybody would say the weather's great, but for me, I grew up in a mid-sized town outside of San Clemente. Didn't see the ocean until I was 17, so that was a goal of mine, was to live by the water if I was going to move out from the Midwest, and just fell in love with, frankly, the community, the sense of community down in San Clemente, the tight-knit people that are there, and genuine people. I felt a lot like the Midwest, frankly, and the type of people that are there. It's obviously beautiful. It obviously has every box that you could check, from the nature trails, from the aesthetics, from the hills. We first lived in Talega. I lived right up next to the Don O'Neill Land Conservancy, so it was beautiful. I hiked all the trails, biked back there. It just checked every box for me. I work in Costa Mesa, so it was a little bit of a trek, but frankly, you get to work from home on occasion, and you leave at a certain time of day from both home and work.
I mean that's part of living in Southern California, right? If you're not willing to get in the car and drive 30 minutes at any time of day or night, they'll take the residency away, right? I mean, it's just...
He actually works in the building right next to ours.
Yeah, he had a very big commute. I don't know if you guys can't see it, but let's just say that I could probably wave at him from here if he was...
Yeah, I think I could still hit the building with a baseball.
You could?
Gave me one, yeah.
Okay, so now he's just bragging.
No, it's just not.
So
that
not
far
only is he
away.
running for office, there's probably going to be some petting the dog, and kissing the baby here soon. But he's also can hit it right out of the park. Dan, it's really funny that you say that, because I think a lot of people don't understand that about San Clemente, and they don't understand that, especially in communities that are more planned, newer communities that were basically established based on a different philosophy. San Clemente, for those who don't know, if you will allow me, we were basically established in 1926. The majority of the presence and the feel and the vibe of the town, ironically, was built over a period of probably about 2 years, right? And then we hit a depression, and then basically there were people that stayed. San Clemente was never initiated as a community that was for people to come and squat or to set up, homestead. It was literally a second home community that was developed for those who basically were traveling from Los Angeles to San Diego to go to the bullfights in Tijuana, and Prohibition was very much that part of the time. So there's all these little bungalows, and then of course you had all the people that were involved in the servicing and the community programs and so forth, and those were the people who stayed past 1928. And we have a very rich, I think, interwoven history down there that a lot of people don't understand. But I think that's always been interesting for me is that San Clemente also is one of those rare occasions, especially when you consider the California experience, where the community is multi-generational. I mean, the story, hearing a story about somebody basically getting in trouble in the north end of town and their parents finding out about it in the south end of town before they got back home that day is not an uncommon story.
No,
right?
not at all.
And I would probably say that it probably to a certain extent still happens today, except it's probably a tweet versus a phone call that gets the parents up to speed. So it is a very unique community, and I've always said that as such, we were blessed to have been spared for a long time. A lot of people just drove right by us, and we had an ability to sort of organically grow and fill in, and to the point where we're almost built out. Would you say? Over a period of time where a lot of Orange County was basically, tearing down and building high density and so forth, and we kind of were sort of that little. Did I just trip over a town as I was going down to San Diego? We had 2 exits, and now we have like 4 exits. And at some point, it was like I turned the corner on Dana Point. The next thing I know, I'm in Pendleton, right?
Yep.
And we were kind of okay with not being on the radar so much. And now, which is inevitable, property values have gone up as they've traveled up North San Diego County, down from Laguna. We've become more discovered. And there is a duality, I think, in San Clemente now, where there are people that want to hold onto that, understandably, that sort of nostalgic, I'm not being, I don't think I'm being really a stretch here when I say some people are, it's Mayberry, it's small town USA, it's the quintessential California experience. You take a street down through the old town to end up at a pier that opens up to an ocean view. I mean, it's like if somebody didn't know anything about California and you said, describe California from what you have been influenced by popular culture, let's say, oh, it's a woody that's 2-story buildings, and then I turn a corner and the Pacific Ocean opens up and there's palm trees, and it's pretty much San Clemente.
Yep.
So here we are, 2018. You're running for city council. We obviously have issues like any city. I mean, it's 64,000 people, I think, right? The last count or something.
66.
66,000. So that's not a small size. It's not a large size, but it's definitely a good size. And we have issues like everybody else. I mean, we've got, we're built out. We're attractive destination. We have people coming in maybe trying to do something that is overscaled for what our community is. How do we, we've got homeless issues that are, currently county-wide issues really, right? But we've got them down there. We have crime that's obviously has increased. You remember the day, it wasn't that long ago when people left their doors open in San Clemente.
Yep.
Right? How do we balance that? Let's start with that. How do we balance that, in your opinion? Because you're going to be sitting in that role. How do you, in your own mind, filter the San Clemente, quintessential San Clemente, and at the same time being sustainable? Because we also are not a young community. The average age is over 40. We have people holding onto their houses longer. The property taxes are not increasing because of the exchange of homes. They're staying in them. They're healthier. We have an aging population that's going to have more demands on the city to provide for amenities. We don't have retail sales that are happening because of an aging community because they don't buy as much. So how do you balance that out? Because it's not just a straight out, hey, this is a city that's booming.
Yeah, I mean, that is the tough question that I think every city council for the last several years has had to answer. And I think I would point to, from a land use perspective, the general plan. I mean, we just went through a 4-year process not too long ago talking about all these issues. How are we going to balance planning, development, future growth?
And this is the task force that you were part of.
Correct, the General Plan Advisory Committee.
Yep.
As a city council member, you have certain leeway and discretion to make changes to land use planning. I'm, as a land use attorney and somebody who's involved in that, I think that general plans are sort of sacred. I mean, that is the guidance for a city going forward. You have to follow the general plan. You can't ignore the provisions of that, and you can't change them willy-nilly. So I think that is the document that is going to guide the future. I would point to that for a land use perspective.
And are you happy with the product that came out of that process?
Yeah, I think I'm mostly happy. I mean, I was involved in the process. I made my comments. Certain things were done that I thought were good. Some were things that maybe will have to be addressed in 10 to 15 years, but you don't second guess those. I think as a city council member, you're a steward of that planning process. You can take advice from from a planning commission, and move forward, but projects don't just come in. You don't just throw out the general plan on the basis of a single project. I think that's where the city's gotten into problems in the past, and there's been several voter initiatives that have come down the pipe
Sure.
that have overturned those decisions
Sure.
for that reason, because San Clemente has a personality like any city does. And people are resistant to change to a large degree, and they're resistant to folks who come in from outside of San Clemente and try to sort of change.
To impose their vision on the city.
Correct,
Yeah.
in a big way. And so as a city council member there, you have to be careful of that. With that said, San Clemente is still a growing city, and there's still certain amenities and resources that people want to see. Home goods came in recently, and whether you want that or not, that is certainly a sign of the fact that we need the tax revenue. We need shopping and retail to be there to support the amenities like the Hermosa Sports Park and other things that we want to do. We want sand for the beaches. We want recreational trails.
Right.
So that's something that people have come to expect about the city. And so you have to balance the sort of, we want things to remain the same with, well, how do we continue to pay for the things, the amenities that we want and that we have,
Right.
without bringing in new
Well,
businesses?
I think, you deal with it from the legal side and in terms of land use. I deal with it in a professional capacity from the sort of the design and construction side. And it's always been my belief that because people spend top dollar to unique environments, okay, there's value added in exclusivity. There's value added in unique and appropriate, right? And so it's never been a case of maximization in my mind if you really wanted to have something that was sustainable. And very particularly in San Clemente, and I'll use a perfect example. My very first project when I went out on my own was the Casa Romantica, when they turned into a cultural center. And I refer to that project as an exercise of restraint. The answers were there. We didn't need to figure out what color paint that we needed to put on those shutters. We had to scrape the paint down to see what the original color was. And we ended up with an authentic experience that people basically seek out because of that authenticity, right? I think the same thing applies to things like this. I think that the home goods, for example, was a good solution because the scale and appropriateness, the sensitivity to the community, and we're not unique, by the way. I mean, Carlsbad does sort of the same thing. There's some communities that do it better than others. And the focus being that you don't need to compromise and sacrifice quality of life for something. There's usually another solution that maybe is a hybrid. And that's where I appreciate your take on things, Dan, I've always have, because I think that's where we get lazy. That's where we get lazy.
Well, and I was going to say, part of that process, and I think you said compromise, which is a word that isn't thrown around very much these days. It's sort of one way.
We live in a very polarized society.
Sure. And so, I think my approach to governance is very much one of reaching across the aisle. I'm a Republican.
Yeah.
That's known. But you have to be able to work with everyone in order to get things done and to find a solution that works, maybe not for everyone, but for the biggest majority of people in the town. And that's really what I want to do. I want to be able to be seen as the person that can reach across the aisle, that can find solutions that's maybe not everything that I would want or everything that the other side would want, but it's something everybody can live with. And I think that is a lost art in governance and something that people aren't willing to do anymore.
Sadly, you're very, very right. I think we're going to take a break, Paul.
Yes.
And then when we come back, we'll talk about some of those issues with that in mind.
All right.
Perfect.
Everyone knows that moving is one of the most stressful times in a person's life. And the worst part? Searching for cardboard boxes. It's absolutely prehistoric. Digging through dumpsters, going from store to store, buying stacks of them you're only going to throw away later. Well, now there's an answer. Bungo Box. Bungo boxes are durable, stackable, eco-friendly, plastic moving containers that will cut the cost of your packing supplies in half. And they're made of hard plastic, which gives you much more protection for your precious belongings. Much better than cardboard. Bungo boxes hold over 100 pounds per box, plus our boxes never, ever need tape. That's right, no tape. But since our bungo boxes come with fitted dollies, your movers will move at the speed of light. So whether you, your friends, or your office are moving, there's really only one solution, Bungo Box. Find out more at bungoboxoc.com. That's bungoboxoc.com. Or call 714-725-7292. You order them, we deliver them. You move, we pick them up. That's bungoboxoc.com. All right, before you get back, somebody wants to just frame the race for us here. How many seats are on the council?
How many seats, Dan?
So there's 3 seats up this time.
Out of how many?
Out of 5.
Okay, this is city council with 5. Some have 7 these days.
Yeah. So it's unclear on who's going to run again. I think Lori Donchak has announced that she's not running. So there's at least 1 open seat, and then how many people are running for those seats is anybody's guess. I would expect anywhere from 6 to 8 people.
What's the cutoff? When do people have to decide by?
So papers are pulled in July, and so you have to get your 35 signatures for your nomination papers, and those have to be filed by August. So we'll know by the end of the summer.
So they have till August to apply, and then the race is obviously in November here.
Yep.
Okay.
So, again, Paul, for those people who are joining us now who weren't with us in the first half of the show, how can people get hold of us on the phone or by Twitter?
949-330-7761. 949-330-7761 if you want to call in or just check us out on Twitter. Hashtag OC Talk Radio.
Any questions for Dan, please call in. This is an opportunity to ask them directly.
What do you think I just have a question. What are the key, and I don't want to go toll road yet. I know you want to talk about the save it to the end, but what are the issues in this election?
Gosh, that's
old versus new. That's
well,
and
let me reframe that question. What are the issues in this election, and are those issues specifically something that is real in this election, or are they some ongoing issues that we have been dealing with that again have manifested themselves now that's an election year?
Well, I think a lot of the issues that I see, I was looking at my 2016 second time running, got close last time, but not quite. A lot of the issues on my position statement last time are the same. I mean, we still don't have a hospital. We lost our hospital in early 2016. It was closed down. Judge Carter's deciding that lawsuit. It's under submission. It has been since February. So we're going to find soon whether...
That's interesting. It's the same judge that was basically involved with the homeless case.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So Judge Carter's going to make that decision, and it should be released, frankly, any day about whether...
And what was the lawsuit? I'm for those that don't...
Not to prejudice
what was the case?
Yeah. But that's a good sign.
Yeah, no, so the lawsuit, for those listening that may not know about it, is Memorial Care had a hospital in San Clemente. It closed down in 2016 after the city council, use my words wisely, but basically modified the overlay zoning for the property to require the hospital to remain a hospital with an emergency room. The overlay zoning that was imposed after the last general plan.
Which Memorial Care, I believe, purchased the hospital that was put in there by some other entity prior, right?
Correct.
Right. So it was San Clemente Hospital, purchased by Memorial Care. Then with the changes in the medical system and provision of medical services, Memorial Care had other thoughts for it, and the city, in trying to protect and maintain an emergency room presence, changed the zoning.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good summary. And so that lawsuit has been pending for a long time now.
And when just finish it. So when they changed the zoning, I take it Memorial Care didn't like that and said we're going to close it then.
Pretty much, it got fenced basically.
Yeah, it got fenced. It's been closed since that point in time. I think it was in March or April of 2016.
What was it they objected to, keeping an emergency room there? Or?
So I think Memorial Care their argument is that having the emergency room was fine, and if they could have separated that off, I think they would have tried to have a standalone emergency room.
Which you cannot without beds because of the state law.
Correct. Yeah. The issue was the inpatient services. I mean, regional hospitals are dying all over the country, in large part because you can't get the money, the revenue to sustain them. At least that was their argument, and that remains their argument. So rather than continue operating a hospital at a loss, they shuttered it. And wanting this other facility or sort of proposal, the city felt, probably rightfully, that the city needed emergency resources, and took action to change the zoning to require that, which kicked off the lawsuit because obviously Memorial Care wanted to go with the other proposal and couldn't because of the change in zoning. So anyway, the point of that story is that that's still a long-standing issue, and even when the lawsuit's decided, we're not going to magically have a hospital again. That's
Right.
going to be something that's going to have.
No,
to,
it's true. I mean, we are like Dan was saying, 66,000 people. We have a lot of retirees. We have a lot of seniors that are not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. They're probably will stay in their homes as long as they possibly can before they actually go to any kind of assisted facility. We have multi-generational families that we have really good urgent care in town.
we do. And
Really
actually-
good urgent care.
No, and that's been a blessing. We had an urgent care open, but I'll add to your list of sort of examples of why a hospital is important.
I think it's important in San Clemente.
Yeah, well, we have songs as well.
Yeah.
We are a de facto host community, and if you look at with the closing
That's,
of
that's
songs,
a very good point. I
with
didn't think
this-
about that. Yeah.
yeah, with the storage of nuclear waste, if you look at all of the 62, 63 host communities across the nation, all of them have shiny
And
new
for
hospitals.
those who don't know what song is,
yeah. San Onofre nuclear generating station.
exactly. With the big Dolly Partons on the beach, basically, as you're going down San Diego.
Exactly.
No.
And they're going to store that nuclear waste there, even though the facility's shuttered for eons.
Yeah, so we are definitely. That's a very good point, actually, Dan. I didn't think about that. That just adds to more of the importance of having it. But on a very very selfish and a personal level, if my parents up on Salvador basically have an emergency, I would rather have them have that extra 5 or 10 minutes by getting to a closer facility than actually having to go up the street. I will also tell you, some urgent cares that I have gone to in San Clemente have actually cautioned me from going up to Mission, and have actually suggested that I go to Laguna because of the lack of wait time in the emergency room. So there's definitely an argument that can be made from a pure business perspective, from a memorial care situation, but as a community with 66,000 people, I think we need, again, a compromise, but not one where it sells out the community. And it has to be sensitive to our needs. So that's the hospital.
Sure.
So, and just so we're clear, so how would you propose that they keep a hospital? Whatever the outcome of this lawsuit is, what's the choice for the city?
Well, the choice for the city, I mean, look, the city can't impose generally upon a property owner to do something with their property. I mean, they can zone it, they can do things like that. If a hospital doesn't make sense there, if it's truly losing money and it's not going to work, that may not be the solution. I think
Right.
in court pleadings, what Memorial Care is proposing now is a partnership with UCI to have a state-of-the-art Alzheimer's
facility.
dementia facility there, which frankly would also be a great asset to the community because there's nothing like that. You talk about aging population.
The devil's in the details on stuff like that,
Yeah.
because it's going to come down to how is that going to be, how are the services through that facility going to be provided?
Sure.
It's like everything else, right?
That's always the rub.
Right.
It's always the devil.
You
in the
really
details.
got to look at the small print.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so looking at a broader perspective, if that location doesn't work, we've got 12,500 new homes coming in Rancho Mission Viejo. There's a lot of land out there. Perhaps there's a partnership that could be
For
had
a possible new location for
Sure.
a hospital. Yeah.
for somebody to come in and bring in a hospital. Obviously, that's more expensive. Obviously, somebody would probably rather retrofit the space
Right.
in San Clemente, but I think there's other options. And with being now a de facto host community for nuclear waste, perhaps there's federal dollars out there to go after for a hospital.
That's very good. So that's that kind of thinking outside the box, newer thought patterns that we miss out on, I think, when we do not encourage other people to run for office to bring those thoughts to the table.
Sure.
So that's the hospital.
Can I on that
Yeah,
point?
yeah.
So I didn't
Yeah,
get
yeah,
to
yeah.
jump in earlier
Yeah, yeah.
when you were talking about campaigns. You take your knocks. I took my knocks last time around as
Yeah,
a
you did.
candidate. I was a newcomer. It is discouraging to see that type of sort of rhetoric in local campaigns. My hope is that this time it won't be so bad. I'm going to make a conscious effort this time to not attack, to point out things that I think I could see better. But we're a community. We're a small community. I hope that those types of things don't happen. They will, because they always do.
You know what? It's the blessing and the curse of a small community, Dan,
Sure.
right? I mean, you are going to be looked at through a filter of what you have said in the past. You're going to be looked at through things where you supposedly stand. There's going to be some, unfortunately, are in a very polarizing thing. I do like where San Clemente is today in not every 100%, but we are, I think, better as a unified front today, willing to look at things beyond the polarizations of the extremes, because we are challenged as a community in certain ways. The toll road, Paul mentioned the toll road. I mean, I want to almost write a thank you card to the TCA, to be honest, and say thank you for unifying San Clemente.
There are a bunch of unifying issues that we're
Right.
being presented with.
Right, and
No, I
so
think that's right.
we actually may have, and I think your approach would be very smart, because the confrontational component isn't going to do anything, and people are kind of tired of it, and they're looking for somebody that's going to basically present an alternative.
Has San Clemente been I confess I know nothing about the history of the city council down there, but I know that
Shame on you.
some city councils in South County and throughout the county have had very, very contentious debates and histories. I think San Juan Capistrano is one example. Certainly years ago, it was City of Orange and others where they just a lot of infighting, a lot of divided groups, a lot of arguments and mudslinging going on. Has San Clemente been like that, or has it been a pretty
You want to take that?
unified?
It's certainly been my experience.
Yeah.
The last couple of election
Yeah.
cycles, it's been pretty divisive. You know, there's been projects that have come along, and look, people care. I mean, I don't fault people for
No,
caring.
I'll
a
take
great
that
deal.
every day.
I think that the problem is there tends to be a focus on the individuals and those people instead of the issues that are being presented and the solutions.
The positives and the negatives of a small community.
Sure, and that's but that's that's something
Right.
I'm trying to move past,
Right.
and focus more on solutions, issues. Because every city council race, right? Everybody can say public safety is the issue or whatever they think the issue is. What it really comes down, I think, for voters and people is they want to hear who's best equipped to deal with those issues.
And issues are going to keep coming up.
Sure.
So who is the right person and solution-minded that is also understands the uniqueness of the community that they're representing and bringing all those factors to the table in reaching solutions versus not? Because kicking that can down the road, not spending the money where it needs to be spent is why we have an issue with the homeless, is why we have an issue with the hospital. I mean, there's a bunch of this stuff that just gets kicked down, and it's highlighted during election cycle, and then nothing happens for a duration of 2 to 4 years, and then boom, here we are again. And this is not just a reflection of San Clemente. I think, unfortunately, it's a reflection of the whole political spectrum.
And what's the average age of the city council? Is it primary? Because all I hear Rod
That's a
say,
good question.
all I hear Rod say is it's the old guard that doesn't want to see change versus the new guard that says you got to change, whether you like it or not.
You know, I think the demographics we have right now are actually pretty good.
On
We
the,
have a-
as far as representation on the city council.
yeah,
I agree.
think we have a good mix. I mean,
Yeah.
we have Chris Ham, who's in his early 30s.
Youngest
and-
mayor, yeah.
And Steve Swartz, I
Who's
hesitate to guess. but-
Steve? I'm sorry, I'm not calling you an old guard, but yeah, he's more established. He's more of a person that's involved in the community. Yeah, so let's just not go down the list, Dan, okay? Because what I really didn't want to do is I didn't want to get caught up on one particular issue. I wanted what we just went through to come across, that you are actually bringing that approach and philosophy to the city council, that you're running on that compromise versus what some people may call a sell out on issues. You're looking at it and you have an appreciation for the community and the uniqueness of the community, and that all of those factor into how you would basically sit and make decisions.
Sure.
Plus your own professional experience that comes in. That I agree. I mean, I don't think you can separate land use and zoning from California, period, let alone Southern California, because it's such a big part of the economic engine. Land has been,
Well, and as you said,
development,
it's
and
the number
construction.
one issue in
Right.
cities is how are you going to use the land? How are you going to?
Well,
how,
it's gonna have to evolve and change because of the nature of the demand and supply, the nature of what people are looking for, experiential versus just mass build out. But those are still going to be part of the land use.
Sure, and that's
Right.
what local government does.
That's it.
Frankly, I mean that's what a city's role primarily is, other than public safety and other things that they do for parks and recreation. But
Right.
That's the big driver of what local government is supposed to be deciding.
So I'm gonna go through just a quick list. Tell me what you think, like just one sentence on these things, okay? And I encourage people to reach out to Dan. How do they get hold of you first?
Well, danbanesc.com is my website.
and spell that.
It's
DAN.
Right.
DANESC.
Because I could see BAIN or other ways to spell it. BANE, right?
Yeah, Bane like Batman.
Dan Bane SC. That's not a good one. .com. And reach out to Dan and ask him. But let's go through the list. So public safety, San Clemente.
So I think that that is the election issue. That has to be a focus. Last time I made it a huge focus with Prop 4757. Budgets are impacted substantially by providing police and fire services. I freely acknowledge that, but I'm really ready to roll up my sleeves, work to look at the budget and see where we can trim the fat.
Do we need more policing?
I think we do. I think if you look at the numbers, if you listen to Lieutenant Peters, who's
Right.
our chief down in San Clemente, of course we do. I mean, what's effectively happened is the state's pushing all that responsibility down to the local level, And you can either try to meet the times, or you can have an influx of crime and property and homelessness.
And the responsibility, what, for housing criminals locally rather than sending them to state?
Well,
pens and stuff?
Enforcement more.
Correct. Enforcement, public safety. I mean, when you release that many people that have been incarcerated for a long time, I mean, it was a monetary decision. I mean, that's basically what the state decided to do, was to deal with the lack of space in jails. The solution wasn't to build more jails. It was to just release more people that are incarcerated.
Right.
So communities
And push the responsibility down to the local level.
Sure. And so now, and then the other side of that coin is no longer are people do they have to worry about crimes for up to $950, or I forget what the limit is, but those people are given tickets. They're not given
It's misdemeanors versus.
they're not given rides up to jail. So cities have to unfortunately be
And is San
present.
Clemente a contract city? Do you contract with the sheriffs to provide police services?
We do, Orange County Sheriff.
Right.
So that's something that definitely is unavoidable, and I think it has to be addressed, and will definitely be part of the campaign. We talked about the hospitals. So what do you think? Do you think we need that emergency services?
Yeah, I think we need some emergency services. Is that location the answer? I don't know. I have problems with forcing an entity or a property.
Let me
owner to do certain
let me
things.
pose the question in a different way. Is Mission Viejo too far?
Right now, yes. I'd like to see a hospital in South County.
Okay,
I
fair.
think is a
No, that's fair enough. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. We're being asked to basically shuttle everybody to Mission Viejo, and we're saying that's too far. So where's the compromise? Everybody got to come to the table and figure that out.
Yep.
What about sober living? Big deal.
that is a huge deal. It continues to be a big deal. We need some change at the federal level. I mean, when I'm looking at federal candidates, I want somebody that's going to go in and work for a change to the ADA, so that we as local communities.
As far as the disability
Sure.
classification?
Well, I mean, look, you have a statutory scheme. This is what often happens, and
Right.
you have courts that have interpreted that scheme to mean that people of 6 or less can be in residential neighborhoods. That is a court determination. So somebody needs to get in and clarify that to say, look, we can't have these types of businesses overrunning residential communities. Treatment is necessary. Treatment's appropriate. I want to see those folks get treated, but there has to be a compromise for how those businesses are number one, regulated, and whether they're allowed to be in what are effectively bedroom residential communities, because they bring with them a lot of unforeseen consequences and circumstances
Right.
that people don't plan for.
Rehab is not a clean process.
Yeah.
There are people that are struggling in different ways and acting out in different ways, and that is something that is now being put upon the communities to absorb. So again, we go back down to regulation and enforcement of regulation, really, right? So here we go, kind of loop. And to be honest, I think part of this, and if you look at the rehab question in a bigger picture, it also starts touching onto homeless and providing mental services, mental health services. I mean, because you can't you're not going to separate sort of the drug use and the sober living and some of the people that are basically on the street, right? And that have those problems. I mean, the ironic thing is, if we looked at this as a universal situation and actually tried to work out solutions that would have a positive impact on all these different areas, we might actually be more successful than trying to isolate each one of these situations and trying to deal with it as in a microcosm.
You're down to
Right.
the last few minutes. You want to talk toll roads?
I want to talk about historic preservation first and adaptive reuse. So what do you think? Is it a unique situation in San Clemente?
It's an incredibly unique situation in San Clemente. I mean, the town was built in the 1920s with a founder who had a very specific vision for what the city was going to be. And we have a lot of buildings that are left over from that time period that the Miramar, for the longest time, was sitting vacant, that need to be reused. And a focus from the city needs to be on making reuse of those types of historic resources.
So would you agree with me? And I'm not putting my historical society hat on, really, but maybe I am.
You always
are. but no, I mean, this is purely from the prospect of unique offering and leveraging assets. Okay. I think we have an untapped resource with our historical uniqueness that we haven't really even scratched. And as we get more and more built out, that is an economic engine that, if it is actually done with the sustainability and protection of that engine in mind, is something that could sustain the city of San Clemente for a very, very long time that we haven't really even touched. And so I would like to see, I mean, the Miramar is a perfect example. The Miramar, with the proposal on the table now, that ironically was very similar to the first proposal that was ever done on it 12 years ago, is the appropriate and sensitive solution that would become an asset to the community. Tearing it down, losing out all the historical credits that would go with it, and building a 5-story with 2 stories of underground parking would not have been the appropriate solution. And so, again, taking the time and putting in the energy and effort in finding a unique solution for San Clemente rather than a cookie-cutter template that is basically something that works somewhere else in Orange County, I would think would be an appropriate approach on this.
Time's up. You want to talk toll roads?
Toll roads, really quick. Toll roads. What do you think?
Well, we're fighting the fight. I mean, as you know, I'm one of the litigators.
He's literally fighting the fight.
Yeah, I'm one of the lead litigators on the toll road litigation. And, the one thing that I can say, and Paul, when we came in, he said, well, wait a second, that's always been planned to be there. It was planned to be in certain parts of town. It was originally planned to go around San Clemente. If you look at the legislative
through the park, yeah.
Correct. If you look at the legislative route that the legislature adopted in 1996, it went around San Clemente. In fact, the route is defined by code as connecting to the 5 south of San Clemente. So, look, that route is no longer on the table. Nobody's advocating for that route. I'm certainly not. My problem is now the TCA gave up on a route that was defined by statute. The statute still says what it says and says that the route is that. They can't unilaterally now go and start looking for new solutions that basically divide an existing community. That's been my biggest problem, I think, from the outset.
Do we need a toll road in South County?
No, the numbers that I've seen, absolutely not. I mean, that's just not supported. The own traffic numbers that we've seen both from the OCTA, from Stantec, who's the actual TCA's traffic consultant, when they did their affordable housing developments in Rancho Mission Viejo, they identified that.
And a recent study that was commissioned by the city of San Clemente actually also supports that there's no justifiable reason for not only a toll road, but as expensive a toll road as being projected in terms of cost.
Correct. And for people scratching their head and saying, wait a second, I was told for so many years that we had to have a toll road. Well, there were a bunch of things that have happened since that time, like the widening of the 5 through San Clemente, putting the HOV lanes, the high occupancy vehicle lanes through town, the completion of Las Patronas Road, and La Pata Road, which not a lot of people realize, has alleviated a lot of the traffic impacts because a lot of people from
the widening of the 5 alone.
Correct.
And
what's the future of driving look like? Driverless cars, other things? Do we really know?
That's also part of the matrix, yeah.
Sure. And so actually, ridership on the 5 has decreased substantially. It hasn't increased as was originally projected. It's actually decreased. And the numbers going forward are much lower if you look at the OCTA studies than the TCA projects, by like 50,000 trips per day.
Paul, to answer your question also, to just expand on it, is we had a trolley system that ironically San Clemente was the first city in South County to propose a trolley system. We're the last one to actually get one, but we finally got one. Thank you, Lori Donchek, for sticking it out. And then we basically ended up with running an experimental period of it over the summer. And I think the last thing I saw is that they're considering actually making it more of a permanent situation. Now, for somebody that's older, like my dad, who's 84, who's looking at possibly losing his driving, how does that person maintain independence without some sort of dependable public transportation that is of a certain caliber that they can basically feel safe using? So that's the kind of thinking that we need. In a community that's older, in a community that's aging, that's still active, we need to provide these alternatives. We need to look at their houses and protecting their houses. A toll road running behind a house of a retiree, that's going to have a negative impact on their pricing. We talk about this in the show all the time, where you leverage that primary asset towards, with a reverse mortgage so that you can age in your house, you can pay for medical services later on. A lot of people don't have that kind of nest egg to basically protect them in their later lives, and they're living longer than their savings. So all of these things factor into, I think, the responsibility on the community to provide leadership on these issues. And then one last question. Do you think we need a homeless housing or homeless shelter in South County?
In South County?
Well, you want to deal with San Clemente? Fine. I mean, I know we need to basically adhere to the SB2, right?
Correct. We had to zone for it. Whether somebody comes, FAM, essentially Family Assistance Ministries, is doing that already through Gilchrist House.
Right.
But that's a private decision. We've zoned. The city's complied with that.
Finally.
Frankly, the county is the one that needs to take the lead, and I'm disappointed in the fact that for 10 plus years.
Perfect case of kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, we've had the funds to do that. But with that said, all the communities need to work together to find a regional solution. No city should have to bear the brunt of all of the homeless.
But we all have to, I think, as an overall community, take responsibility for dealing with that part of our community.
Agreed.
So if people want to take an alternative look, a different path, how do they reach you? How do they find you? How do they read about you?
So again, Dan Bane, DANBANESC.com is my website, and I'm on Facebook. So.
And he's running, so chances are we'll probably have him on again. But Dan, thanks for taking the time.
Really appreciate it. Thanks
Really,
for the invite.
and it's always an open door. Seriously, I mean, I think these are issues we're talking about them in relevance to San Clemente, but I think they're issues that are shared by a lot of communities in Orange County.
Unquestionably.
Right.
Yep.
As the whole county really ages. So thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Anybody who wants to get hold of Dan, again, it's Dan, DANBANESC, GoSC.com. And if you're interested in any questions about the show or you'd like to get hold of any of our guests, please contact me at the Raad Life, RAADLIFE, on Facebook, or you can email me at Raad, RAAD, Gantus, GHANTOUS, at gmail.com. I'll give you my number, but then you're going to basically call me, so I'm not going to do it this time. Thanks for being here, Dan. Appreciate it.
You have been listening to the Raad Life Radio Show with your host and age explorer, Raad Gantos, brought to you on the one and only octalkradio.net. Join us again next week as we continue our journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting older.
Support for this NPR podcast and